on the ABN AMRO Bank story, how to create value from AP challenges. We'll be exploring how the bank and the P2P department particularly overcame the challenges of a merger situation to become more streamlined and efficient, and how by taking a close look at process improvements and new solutions, ABN AMRO were able to leverage significant cost savings with increased visibility. This webinar, with the help of Marco van Poorten from ABN AMRO and Willem Stevens from Transparent, will show you how it's possible to manage an overhaul of processes to uncover the hidden data lurking in your accounting systems. And on top of that, really work within a framework which allows for growth while maintaining long-term ethical sustainability.
Yes. Okay. Just a second. Let me page down. There we are.
So before I hand you over to Marco and Willem, let me just tell you just a little bit about your presenters today. Marco van Poorten has an in-depth knowledge of ABN AMRO, having worked with the bank since 1990 in various different positions such as IT manager and bank director. For the past 8 years, he's been instrumental in setting up the AP organization from scratch, really. And Willem Stevens is the CEO of Transparent, which is a data mining company he started in the Netherlands in 2000. Living and working in various European countries and the US, Willem has a wide understanding of what makes organizations tick, and today Transparent is active globally. And of course, my name is Ellen, and I'm the editor of APN. Okay, so just before we begin, here's a quick agenda of what we'll be discussing today. Marco van Poorten is going to give you an overview of ABN AMRO, discussing really what happened in his team during a merger situation and the challenges that they faced. Alongside Marco, Willem Stevens will be looking at how the challenges were overcome and what Transparent were able to do to lend a hand. Okay, so just before I do hand you over, this session is interactive and you do have the opportunity to ask questions by adding them into the free text box in your GoToWebinar panel. So if you type these in, I can either ask Marco or Willem to address these questions at the end. So okay, sit back and enjoy the webinar, and do type in those questions as they occur to you. So now let me pass you across to Marco van Poorten of ABN AMRO. Over to you, Marco.
Okay, good morning to you all. Ellen already has some introduction of my person itself, so I think I will follow now with the introduction of ABN AMRO before we go in depth of the situation of purchase to pay and relation with Transparent. I will start with ABN AMRO. It serves retail, private and commercial banking customers in the Netherlands and across the globe. I think, as you all know, ABN AMRO has the last 5 years a lot of history. It started really challenging years. It started the takeover of the Royal Bank of Scotland, Banco Santander and Fortis. Then all Europe was on fire, and we were taken over by the state. So at this moment we're still owned by the state, and yeah, it's a real unique situation. Not always very pleasant, but really unique, because I think there's no bank who has suffered those kind of processes. And maybe really looking at 2007 takeover, as already mentioned. 2008 nationalized by the bank, and in 2010 we have a merger completed with Fortis. And as you're all aware, Fortis Bank in the Netherlands doesn't exist anymore. We have offices in 28 countries. We have approximately 26,000 FTEs and 6.8 million customers, divided in retail banking, private banking, commercial banking, and merchant banking. Within the Netherlands, all in the top position. And at this moment, which I can mention, within merchant banking, we have a really strong domestic position for all over the world with ECT and ABN AMRO Clearing. Now something about our strategy and values. The important thing is, and I think that's all within all banking, that as a bank you should only sell products and services which you and your customer, of course, can understand. Our focus of ABN AMRO at this moment is really within the Netherlands, but if we have clients abroad, we follow them and serve them as well. So the focus is the Netherlands, but we service our clients also abroad. Our strategy is sustainable growth based on know-how. And we are focusing on activities in markets in which we are strong. We aim to continue growing our market position in the Netherlands, as already mentioned, and special activities abroad. If we look what we want to be for a bank, we want to be a bank that always puts its clients first. I think it's in all business important. We create sustainable long-term value for all our ABN AMRO stakeholders, including clients, shareholders and employees. And that's why we have our corporate values in line with this kind of strategy. And it is the corporate values are trusted, professional and ambitious. Next slide will show you the org chart. The org chart is divided in, we have client centers and we have client centers and support centers, sorry. Our client centers are retail and private banking, commercial and merchant banking. And our support centers are finance, IT operations, risk management, HR, communications. And maybe it's good to know, purchase to pay is within the part of finance, and P2P is seen as the financial shared service center for the whole bank in the Netherlands at this moment. Now, if you look at the merger, after all the things happened, between separation and integration, we want to be one bank with a lean, mean structure and affordable for customers. And as you can understand, we had to inform millions of customers. So people who are accustomed, used to Fortis Bank, now will go over to ABN AMRO Bank. Other internet banking, etc., other bank slides. So you can imagine what that will do to a lot of customers. Merging customer information. We have different products, different services. Sometimes we have to say to that client, okay, within Fortis we have this product, but within ABN AMRO we have a likable product but not the same. For P2P it's really important, scanning a workflow process. We had a Fortis process and ABN AMRO process. E-invoicing is also, sometimes we have the same customers, the same clients, and media attention because of the nationalization. So there was a lot of things doing within the bank, but also especially for purchase to pay. Now there's some real challenges within the purchase to pay, also especially the accounts payable department. First we have the segmentation, ABN AMRO into Fortis, RBS, Santander. We have to sell something also by law, European Union. The separation of accounts payable into 3 separate companies. After that we have an integration of Fortis and ABN AMRO. We have 2 ERP systems with multiple platforms. Optimizing AP and vendor master data. That's why also that transparency comes looking at. Cost reduction, risk management and change management. But if you see the 3 circles, culture, that's one of the the biggest challenge, because some people, especially the Fortis colleagues, lose their bank. Sometimes people working for 25 years with Fortis, and from one moment to another, it doesn't exist anymore. They are ABN AMRO employees. So that's the biggest challenge, the culture. So the next slide, I think maybe introduction of Willem Jeroen.
Thank you very much, Marco. In short, I will give you a small introduction of me, but I think it's more important to introduce transparent. In short, transparent is a data mining company. Basically, we analyze accounts payable data and supplier master file data for 4 things. We perform a recovery of working capital. We provide insight into AP data and supplier master file data. We benchmark our information that we receive against peers. And fourth, we give advice on what we see. And the good thing is that this all generates money and it doesn't cost anything. It's always a no cure, no pay condition. Transparent itself was founded in 2000, and we have operations throughout Europe and nowadays also in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and of course we have an office in the United States. And as mentioned before, we always work on a no recovery, no fee module.
Okay, and if we look at the reason why we are here, what Transparent did for ABN AMRO, helped us, give us a really helping hand. Approximately 7 years ago, Willem Jeroen and we met on a seminar, and 7 years ago, and after approximately 3 years, we did our first business, and we started our relation, and to be specific, ABN AMRO and Transparent. If you look, the services he did and still doing is currently executing the 3rd AP recovery audit, looking at duplicate payments, cash recovery, AP process inside via reports and an online portal, and the online portal we'll discuss afterwards, AP performance benchmarking, the recovery of unclaimed property, also that will be discussed further on, vendor master data optimization, SEPA ready before 2014, and SEPA is a single European payment area. And we can also look at the Nostro-Foster accounts if they're also duplicate payments.
In short, we're now in our 3rd recovery audit for ABN AMRO. First, we only looked at, in 2008 or the beginning of 2009, we first looked at ABN AMRO. At that time, there was 18 billion in purchasing turnover that we analyzed. In the 2nd audit, we analyzed the Fortis Bank, which was integrated into ABN AMRO. And as you can clearly see, the Fortis Bank was only a 5th in purchase turnover. In number of invoices, it was about a 1/3. But and these gave the following results. We found 205 claims out of the ABN AMRO audit, and we found 259 claims out of the Fortis audit. And also the supplier analysis was also quite interesting. The number of suppliers was quite the same, but the number of inactive suppliers, which is of course a very strong hint that the supplier master file needs to be cleansed, was a huge difference.
Okay, maybe I can add something to that, Willem Jeroen, because I'm also responsible for ABN AMRO and the former Fortis, and I know that ABN AMRO was 5 times as big as Fortis, but if we look at the money, and I won't be specific in detail, but we found approximately the same amount of money, I think 50%, but comparing to the size of ABN AMRO, looking at Fortis, it was really, yes, how can I say that, really good to find a lot of money, but strange because a bank who's more big, in comparison, less money, and that's because of different processes, different systems, so that's also really important, the use of your right ERP system and process.
I'll give you a small breakdown of the type of claims that we found at the ABN AMRO. And the most common one, if you break down by this sort, is the 801 claim, which is a financial statement. Besides that, we found the 611, which is a duplicate payment, original and copy, and the multiple supplier records. And these are the results from the ABN AMRO, or the Fortis audit. On the next slide, we also discovered some other duplicate payments, but the number are very small. And I think the important thing is that there are some of the claims that we did not find, which are not on this list. For instance, we didn't find any missed cash discount, and we didn't find any VAT issues, which can still be a common thing which we normally tend to find. And that's something that we did not find. Okay, trying to go to the next slide. Thank you. As mentioned before, the first thing is that we generate working capital for ABN AMRO and for our clients. And the second thing is that we give basically insight into the data that we receive from our clients. So we do that in many ways. Basically, we look, and whatever is in that information that we receive, we try to give back to the client in easily accessible reports. And I think the most important thing about this is that when there are different ERP systems, it's for a client, it's very difficult to get a actual figure of, what is my top spend, what are the duplicate bank account numbers, what's the actual supplier turnover. And because of the different ERP systems, whenever that's the case, that's where we can really give some insight in the AP data that we have received. And basically, these are all accessible through a website. All data is protected via RSA key. Yes, we have one. We have them laying here. So all the information that the client will get is fully protected, and nobody can access it. It's the same safety measures that a bank also takes with their data, and that's the system that we're using. To give you a small example, I won't go into details of it, but to give you a small example is that it's always an interesting report. It's how many invoices are currently being going through an administration, and what's the purchase value on those invoices. If you look at this graph, you can see that the small invoices, it's between 0 and 200 euros in this case, represent less than 1% of the total purchasing, total spend, total purchasing. But the small invoices between 0 and 200, in this case, represent 37% of the total number of invoices. So basically, what this tells you is that, of course, now I'm generalizing a little bit, 37% of the time of the total accounts payable department, they're working on 0 point something percent of total spend. So here, there's definitely some room for improvement.
I agree. And the next slide shows us, and I give you a real story, but shows us how transparency can open my eyes, the eyes of the P2P departments, how we are working the day-to-day, because everybody in the AP, purchase to pay department is working really hard. But if we look how we divide our activities, as Will just explained, for example, it gives us an insight. Also, the portal will show this information, that we have a lot of customers who send a lot of invoices below, for example, 200 euros in a year. So I give you one example. We have a contract with the Chamber of Commerce, and they will send us 11,000 invoices of 11 euros a year. So, for example, you see the cost, total cost is approximately 100K, And to process an invoice, it at this moment cost at ABN AMRO 18 euros an invoice. So 100k cost is 200k to process that. So that information gave transparent by doing data mining, give us, so we take action, and now we made a deal with the client to send us consolidated invoices. So we save approximately 200k a year just to change something, and our service doesn't change. So I can say thank you, Transparent, so showing us this.
And then we have, of course, how does it compare with peers? The third thing that we offer to our clients is some insight and benchmarking. How well are you doing it compared to others? And of course, that's within your peer group and outside. In total, we have 1.3 billion euros in this benchmarking information. It's roughly about 2.5 times the GDP of the Netherlands. To give you some idea, so we can really say something about the benchmarking. It really adds value. In this graph, you can see that the small invoices per industry, the bank and finance is on the second place in general, and banking and finance in our description is it's banking and insurance. Of course, the first one is the transportation and distribution logistics. They have a lot of small invoices because they have a lot of small suppliers helping them. But banking and finance is on the second spot. In general, what can we say about the inactive suppliers? Inactive suppliers are also a critical thing that will prohibit your processes to run smoothly. And inactive suppliers, they're found within each industry. But as you can tell, the banking and insurance industry is not in this one. So on average, the banking and insurance companies don't have that many inactive suppliers. But of course, there's room for improvement. For instance, for ICT, for transportation and distribution logistics, they have a lot of inactive suppliers.
Okay, what I will add is that inactive suppliers, to have that is really polluting your master data file and will have a negative effect on your scanning and workflow. So also this is one of the things Transparent can show you which have effect on a process you normally would not see.
Of course, we dive into the data a little bit deeper, and this is again this is the ABN data, and the graph that you now see is that there's a strong this is the duplicate records in the data. And as you can tell, there's an overall improvement in the entry of duplicate records in the vendor master data. And that you can clearly see that if you plot it, that there's an overall improvement of the master file duplicate records.
Yes, and I can imagine that after the last at this moment our AP audit, that we go to 0. So.
Yeah, I hope so. And the 0 is difficult to reach, but it's possible. It's definitely a challenge. Very good. Also, we look at duplicate bank account numbers. How often does that happen? And on average, where does it happen a lot? And of course, we can tell something about this with our data. And you can tell that the banking and finance is about in the average. And if you're in wholesale and retail, there's a lot of, on average, of course, there's some more duplicate bank account numbers in the master file than with with banking. And then, of course, that's again compared to the norm. We can also say something about the error rates. And well, an error. What is? Let's first discuss a little bit on what is an error. An error is basically money that we can recover, and the more that we can recover, the higher is the error rates. And we've segmented that again in some of the main categories that we're in. And as you can tell, if you're in the travel and leisure and food service, then you might have, on average of course, you might have some more errors than you are with banking and than you are with utilities. As you can tell, wholesale and retail, they're one of the better ones in this category. And also that makes a little bit sense because the easier it is to follow your product, the less chance there is that you will pay an invoice twice, basically. So if you look to the left, the more difficult it is to, what are you selling? Utilities? Services. Yeah, services. You're selling energy, you know, so what are you purchasing? Well, then it's difficult to follow the product throughout the chain.
Okay, now, and if you look at the most common errors in the accounts payable process within ABN AMRO, at number 1, 57%, we see a duplicate payment because of original and copy. Now, I can give you an explanation. The reason, one of the most important reasons, is because of the payment term. There is a lot of different interpretation. We at ABN AMRO, we pay within 30 days. It's by law. But some clients, suppliers, put, for example, 14 or 7 days on their invoice, and they expect the money within the 7 or 14 days. After those days were expired, they will send a copy, a reminder, or every time. So it will cost us a lot of work because we say we wait after invoice date plus 30 days. So that's the reason why we have a lot of duplicates, original copy, because my colleague is chased by the supplier, so he say, please pay urgent, so we as the first to pay, our AP department, okay, we pay, and then there's a different invoice term or invoice note, so we pay double. So that's one of the most important reasons for duplicate payments. The other thing is financial statements. If you look at that, then you can say, whoa, that's money that's on the account of our supplier, and they won't give it back, I know the reason, to ABN AMRO. So it also tells you something about the integrity of the supplier. So after finance, for purchase to pay, also our department of purchasing, procurement, have a lot of information and can do something with the information transparency provides after the AP audit.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, and this information is the aggregate of ABN AMRO and Fortis together in the total numbers.
Thank you.
Well, how does that compare with the peers? And the peers are, of course, the banking and finance. Actually, it holds up quite on average. I think the averages is quite the same as with the ABN AMRO. The only difference is that we don't find anything other with ABN AMRO Fortis. The other is the missed VAT, cash discount, and there's some other exotic claim types which can be in there. But basically, it's the other is what's missing with ABN AMRO, and it's because they have a VAT ruling, and you don't use cash discount.
No, and the reason at this moment why we don't use cash discount, because we have a process which not running fluidly. As I explained, the duplicate payments, the copies, the reminders. So at this moment we are not able to fill in the cash discount because we are hoping just to pay within 30 days.
And that's the process improvement that you're working on.
Yes.
But Marco, you're doing it actually quite well. As you can tell on this slide, it's our benchmarking with some of our peers, and this one is with our some of our client data. You're almost above average.
Okay, that's nice, but I hope, I expect, I trust that after our last AP audit, yes, we move on more right to the right corner. So because I want to be world class, of course.
Mm-hmm. Of course, yes. And I think that the first audit you were, yeah. I'm very curious where we're going to see where you will end up.
But it's improving, so our relationship is working.
Yes, yes, yes. Another important thing that we're doing for ABN AMRO and for some of our other clients is to identify, verify, and recover unclaimed property. Basically, unclaimed property is money which belongs to our client, but which is at the government, of which our client is unaware. And this money can be accounts which have been neglected. Basically, what happens is that whenever a supplier in the US has money which he cannot give back to his client, after 3 years he has to transfer it to the government. The government will then hold it and they will look for the rightful owner. Well, of course, if the company who holds that money cannot find the rightful owner, then the government will even have more difficulty finding the rightful owner. So basically, there's money laying at some of the government offices which belongs to our clients, in a nutshell. And this happens in the US, in the UK, Canada, Australia, and some other countries. Basically, what we do is we identify these amounts, we verify, and we try to recover it. And the recovery can take a while.
Yes, I agree on that, but to tell you, the first time Transparent offered to do unclaimed property, I was very curious, and yes, I agreed, we agreed to do something. And I think it's really special because this is money owned, for example, ABN AMRO or other clients, and now it's in the hands of the American government, mm-hmm. who will have interest on that money. So yeah. I think it's a really strange process. So that's the reason why, and maybe it's nice to tell you, Willem, Jeroen and I went for a trip to the United States. We wanted to visit an unclaimed property office, but also we visited some colleague banks. And if we look at that process, and it's really sad to know that, for example, a bank has find some unclaimed property, but they don't have the capacity and time to find the rightful owner. Mm-hmm. So after a period of 3 years, they have to transfer the money to the state. And if you speak to my colleague over there, they also find it a shame and a waste to transfer the money to the state. But because of capacity and time, they have to do that. So I think it's really good to look in this kind of things, because that's more necessary than, for example, AP, because this is really found money. So I think this is a really nice process to do together with Transparent. Mm-hmm. Yep. It will bring us a lot of money, of course.
That's of course that's the idea.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next slide, it says SEPA Ready module. That's also a service Transparent provides. But before we go into the process, SEPA Ready will mean that for the 1st of February 2014, all companies, but also consumers, have to be SEPA ready. It's one standard process for paying within Europe. Now within countries like UK, Netherlands, France, Italy, they have different formats of account numbers, and the 1st of February 2014 all account numbers should be in one format, and that has to be included with the IBAN, IBAN or BIC code. Now, as you can understand, that's a lot of work. You have to have your Chamber of Commerce number, your account number, the address, but now you also have for every customer, and if you can see we have about 23,000 active suppliers, we have to change the account number in the new SEPA ready module format. So it will it's a lot of work, and that's also why Transparency can provide us help to be SEPA ready. So in short, they will take care of our master data file to be complete on all fields. Now if you look, we have, as I explained, 23,000 active suppliers. We have to merge and complete addresses, add IBAN and BIC to data were incomplete. Now, if you can understand, I think 60% is incomplete at this moment. So they will send a mailing to suppliers for verification of data, and they will update the master file ABN AMRO with correct data. So that's to be SEPA ready. So that's by law. So we have to be the 1st of February 2014, or else we cannot pay. So that's really important. But the thing besides, which also, it's also good for your, as I explained before, scanning and workflow. If you have a really updated master file, the risk of paying to the wrong supplier, have a duplicate payment, is less. So that's to be SEPA ready module.
Yep. And we're going to actively start sending out the letters, I think, the beginning of next week.
Yes. So
yes. So we're
looking forward to have our updated file. So our scanning and workflow process is also from maybe 70 till 100%
right.
accurate. So
yeah, yes,
we need it.
Yep. To give you some idea, on average, what is the well, let's say pollution of the sectors with private companies and public companies. The private companies, they have a polluted supplier master file of about 12%, and the public traded companies about 6%. And this difference, although it says a little bit in Dutch about it, but it gives you some insight that the public traded companies, they normally have their master file a little bit better in order than the private companies. Basically, this is one of the last slides that we have. Our next slide is some of our active clients that we're working for and we're doing this for. And in short, to conclude, I think that what we do is, and we always work on a no cure, no pay condition. We live for the win-win or no deal condition. It's basically we generate working capital, we give insight, we make sure that our clients can be SEPA ready, we benchmark, and we hand over advice on the information that we've discovered and that we can make our clients better effective with.
And maybe something to add, the things you mentioned is really important. Mm-hmm. Cost savings, looking at your process, but the thing I also find important is that working together with Transparency in this case, my investment in time and capacity is very little. Mm-hmm. So I can focus on my process, I can do my things I have to do, I can look at my department, and besides that parallel, Transparency is working on the things Willem just said. So no investment of my part of whatsoever. So I think that's really an extra thing I liked on our relationship.
Okay.
Feel like.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Ellen.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks very much, Marco and Willem, for a really informative and interesting webinar. There has been a question in for, I think you, Marco, and it's just regarding the change management side of things. So the question is, did you encounter much resistance to the change from other staff members after the merger, and did it take long to train them on the new systems?
The question, yes, of course, there's some resistance. For example, the resistance between Fortis and ABN AMRO is the first thing is, maybe it's really simple, but it's really important for people, is the part of their work. ABN AMRO is sited in Amsterdam. Fortis head office was sited in Rotterdam. So people have to travel, for example, 2 hours or 3 hours more in a day. The thing I always look for change, and I always say, people really are willing to change, no problem, but they are not willing to be changed. So you have to involve them with the change. You have to take them within the process. So yes, resistance, of course, logical. Some people lose the name of the company, have to travel more. But if you show them and take them within the whole process, they will accept it more. But it will take, I think now we are within one and a half year, and now people are getting more accustomed, more used to the new process and system. Okay. And I hope this will answer the question.
Okay, and there's another question in. Can you explain why the travel and tourism industry have more errors, and whether you've seen sort of much evidence of that within, within your experience? And I guess perhaps that's a question more for you, Willem.
Yes. The reason. Well, that's a good question. I know that, that of course it's based on the number of clients that we have in that sector, and in the travel and tourism, it's included is whatever you can think of any way of transportation. And in that is also we have several airlines as a client. But also travel companies itself, and so in some of the cases, it's of course it's an average of an average of an average. But in some of the cases, without getting too specific here, is that there is more. The product can be. It's difficult to follow the product. So whenever you do a purchasing, and you have three-way matching, for instance, like for supermarkets or for when you're manufacturing a truck or anything like that. So whenever there's in the purchasing and you can do three-way matching, there tends to be less to be found in in the claims. Whenever the product is not directly linked to the product that's being sold, so the purchases are not directly linked to the things that are being sold, then there's a little bit more chance of errors, and that's the difference. Mm-hmm. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I think that if anybody else has any further questions, then please do contact me, and I can send them over across to either Marco or Willem after the webinar. So please, do contact me if you do have any further questions. The slides will be available afterwards, and I'll be sending out some feedback forms for you, and I can send those slides across to you. So thanks once again for attending, and do keep a lookout for the next APN webinar, which will be on the 18th of July, where I'll be presenting APN's top tips for accounts payable success. Promises to be another fantastic webinar, and I hope you'll be able to attend. In the meantime, thanks once again to you, Willem and Marco, and to all of you for attending. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.